Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back in your COVID classroom. Hope you're all doing well and that your work is up to date. Right, let's carry on with our next poem. And after this one, there's only one more left. So isn't that some good news for you? Right, let's get started. Open up those poetry books of yours. Right, the first thing you will have to do is to mark the poem Forgotten People. Here are your answers. Like I said, you will be getting them from your RCL member as well. So don't stress too much if you can't read this or get this. Then the next poem that we are going to look at is This Letter is to Say. Lesson 14 of this week of classes. And what is lesson 14 about? Right, lesson 14 is about companies and governments and their citizens. Now, we are kind of just in slap bang the middle of something like that, where people's rights are defied by governments and by institutions for the better good, as they say. You're not allowed to smoke or drink, walk in the park, exercise, go anywhere, visit friends, and so forth. You have to wear a mask, no more than 50 people at a funeral, and so on. Who is dictating these rules? Who decided that this is how it is supposed to be and how things should work? Apparently, the people or forces that know in the government, okay? This poem is a satire, kind of bringing across a message in with a sick sense of humor, okay? Because it is not really how it is supposed to happen. It's kind of light-hearted, but it is also not so much once you get to start to read the poem. Do you think it is fair to remove people from their homes? We saw when COVID-19 broke out and it was the lockdown that the red ants moved into the squatter camps and started breaking down people's homes. It might not be much, but it has been their home, which was fine for quite a while up until then. And now all of a sudden everybody decided that it is not going to work anymore. And with total disregard of the people, they just went and they broke down their homes, making them homeless, and then shoving them into some other form of accommodation, being it a tented camp or something somewhere. And also, how do you feel about being criticized and not having a say in the matter? Now, who was the poet of This Letter is to Say? The poet was Raymond Wilson. He was a British writer and educationalist and a professor of education at Reading University for over 20 years. And he produced numerous collections of short stories and poetry. So you might read this man's poetry somewhere along the line in the future. Right, let's start reading the poem about This Letter is to Say. This side, the left-hand side, we'll start and then carry on that side, on each of these. Dear Sir or Madam, this letter is to say your property stands bang in the way of progress and will be knocked down on March the 3rd at 1:30. There is no appeal, since the national need depends on more and still more speed. And this, in turn, dear Sir or Madam, depends on half of England being tar macadam, but your house will, we are pleased to say, be the fastest lane in this motorway. Meanwhile, the Borough Corporation offer you new accommodation 3 miles away on the 13th floor, flat number Q6824. But please take note, the council regret. No dog, cat, bird or other pet. No noise permitted. No singing in the bath. For permits to drink or smoke or laugh, apply on Form Z327. Also, no children admitted, aged under 11, sorry. No hawkers, tramps, or rooftop lunches. No opening doors to Bible punchers. And failure to pay your rent when due will lead to our evicting you. The council demand that you consent to all these terms above when you pay your rent. Meanwhile, we hope that you will feel free to consult us, should there prove to be the slightest case of difficulty. With kind regards, yours faithfully. Right, let's have a look at the poem. The theme and the tone. In this poem, the theme is the power of the state and its officials. How polite, dear sir or madam. Okay. The formal language can mask this insensitive treatment of citizens, even in a democratic country. When they are so formal, when the president speaks over the television, it's always very formal, as if they actually do regard us and they're going to have an open policy and this and that. But there's nothing much open about it. We just get informed how things are going to work. There's a sense of displacement, which is also a theme. The loss of one's roots and home, being cast out into the world, like adrift onto the sea. What is the tone of this poem? Like in the other one, we kind of get the idea it is trying to be light-hearted, but it mocks us, even though it is in a formal tone. Right, when we analyze the poem, the letter bluntly informs this poem, the residents, that their home is to be demolished to make way for a highway. They are offered alternative accommodation in a flat on the 13th floor of an apartment building. They do not have a say in the matter, nor will their individual circumstances be taken into consideration. They do not care whether you are in a wheelchair or whether you have children or small children or pets that you now need to get other homes for or have to be put down. How many people needs to stay in that flat? They just do not care. They actually just inform them that this is going to happen. We need your ground for this flyover or freeway, and you will be relocated. That's the best we can do. We've already decided it's going to be there, and yes, that is what is going to happen. Stanza 1, the analysis. Dear sir or madam, the dear is very formal, cold and impersonal. There's nothing dear about it, okay? It's kind of an antithesis. Dear, you usually write in a sincere letter when you know the people. But here they try to kind of sound sincere when they address them, but they are not. They are cold, informal and impersonal. Formal rather. This letter is to say that your property stands bang in the way of progress. Now progress, the progress they are referring to here in stanza 2, I also mentioned it, is progression and industrialization. That needs to happen. More traffic, more cars on the road. This house needs to make way for them to make the flyover or freeway broader. Your house will be knocked down. This is a definite, okay? A definite. Oh, goody. A definite. It will be knocked down on March the 3rd at 1:30. They even give the date and the time where it is going to happen. So this letter bluntly informs this resident. It doesn't ask, it informs them that their home is to be demolished to make way for a highway. That is the reason why it is going to happen. They are offered alternative accommodation in a flat on the 13th floor, which we will read about a bit further down, okay, of the apartment building. They have no say in this matter, nor have they been asked or their individual circumstances taken into consideration. They are just informed that they have accommodation there and it's being offered to them. Stanza 1 states the facts. First of all, the home will be knocked down. It will be demolished. When? On the 3rd of March at 1:30. The reasons that are given is for the progress of the country. They need to have more traffic flowing to and fro from that area. So that has to happen. Right, stanza 2. There is no appeal, so they can do nothing about it. There's no say in the matter. They can't go to the municipal buildings or to government to appeal this. It has already been given the okay, so it's just going to happen. Since the national need depends on more and still more speed, look at the capital letters of national need. It is capitalized to show the importance of the national need. It is for the greater good. Okay, just like we are locked down for the greater good of the country. Okay, it depends on more and still more speed. Why speed? Life has become a rat race. Progression and industrialization move fast. Industrialization meaning companies, people, imports, exports, all these things need to be done on time. There's schedules that has to be kept to. So therefore, sorry for you, whether you have been born in this house, lived there for 30 years, you are moving. Okay. Dear sir or madam, dear, the antithesis there, they do not know or care about the citizens, but they address them as dear. Okay. It depends on half England being a tar macadam. Now, tar macadam is a mixture of tar and broken stones which are thrown on the road surface. Okay. And that means that they can now drive faster. You cannot drive fast on a gravel road or on a very small road. But if it's tarred and it is wider, it increases the speed and the flow of traffic. He says, but then they just hang out this little sucker or something there by telling them, sweeten the deal. Your house will, we have pleased to say, we are pleased to say, be the fastest lane on the motorway. Isn't that ironical? People don't care that their home will become the fastest freeway lane. They actually do care about the memories and the sentimental value and the roots they have in the home. Not that it has become the fastest lane on the freeway. Right, so it all stresses the insensitiveness of the government, the municipalities, the people who make the decisions. But meanwhile, the borough corporation, in this case, the local town council, okay, offer you new accommodation. Don't worry, we've got some new flats there that you can move to. Your house might have been old, so you will be pleased to have this new accommodation, okay? It deals with the flat being offered to the resident. But it is 3 miles away from where you are staying now. And it is on the 13th floor, flat number Q6824. So these two issues already inconveniences this person. But what do they care? Because usually you buy your house close to where you work, where you stay, where your children go to school. But this one is now 3 miles away and they just have to accept it. And it is not a house anymore. Their whole livelihood is uprooted. They used to pets, a garden, a big house. now they have to move into a flat on the 13th floor, okay, which is also smaller. There will be no garden there. The 13th floor, buildings do not have a 13th floor, most buildings, because 13 is universally considered to be an unlucky number. Sometimes you will notice when you get into a lift and you want to press the floor, that it goes from 12 to 14. There is no 13, okay? This is the first hint of the absurdity of this offer. They're moving them to an unlucky 13th floor. And then the other absurdity is this number. What place has got a number like that? The numbering makes no sense, okay? In other words, the resident's whole life has been reduced to this number. We all have an ID number, where you get to be known by your ID number, and whoever gets hold of your ID number has got access to a lot of things about you. So therefore, now he is also just going to be a number. Right, then we get to stanza 4, but please take note, the council regret. And this is what is absolutely ironic and an antithesis. They do not regret this. Okay, this is the rules they've set up. So they keep on taking away after displacing this poor citizen. What else are there that they're not allowed? No dog, cat or bird, or any other pet for that matter. Get rid of them. You're not taking them with. No noise is permitted. So hopefully you have no small children or anything else that causes a noise. You will also not be allowed to sing in the bath. And if you want to have a drink or a smoke or just laugh at something, you will have to apply for a permit in order to do so. So in stanzas 4 and 5, we are now going to see all the restrictions placed on the resident when they offer him or her that accommodation. These restrictions are absolutely absurd, ridiculous. Okay, as they seem to regulate all aspects of what you have to do and what creates joy in your life. Okay, to have a joyful, happy, carefree life with your own freedom of choice. They now cut off all these things. So when we think of COVID-19, we're not that bad off. At least we can have our pets still and make some noise and sing in the bath or dance or whatever. But this poor citizen is really in a situation which is a bit ridiculous. Stanza 5. He's also allowed no children aged under 11. Now how ridiculous is that? If he's got 3 kids, 2, 5 and 6, what must he now do with his children? Also no hawkers, people knocking on your door trying to sell things, tramps, hobos will be allowed. You're not even allowed onto the roof to have a little picnic there, okay? Like we are not allowed to go to restaurants. No opening doors to Bible punchers, to Christians knocking on your door. You may not allow that either. So he says in stanza 6, if you also fail to pay your rent when it is due, say on the 30th of the month, it will lead to our evicting you. There is no questions asked, you will just be evicted. The council demand that you consent to the terms above when you pay your rent. So this is a catch-22 situation. You can't rent if you don't consent. Okay, so that is a bit of a problem for you. So if you don't want to agree to all these ridiculous rules and restrictions, then you need to find yourself some other accommodation. But we are definitely going to break down your house. Stanza 6 talks about rent which will be payable to the town council, but the amount is not stated. Only that non-payment will lead to eviction. By paying the rent, the resident agrees to all those terms and conditions. Okay. So if he doesn't agree to it, then he cannot rent that place. Stanza 7, the final stanza, They say, meanwhile, isn't this ironic? Meanwhile, we hope that you will feel free. Free, isn't that a lovely word? Free. Because is there any freedom here? No. There is no freedom here. You have to feel free to consult us, should there prove to be the slightest case of difficulty. They are not loyal to the citizen at all. Okay, he is not free. He can't make a choice. And then they end it with a typical ending of a formal letter. With kind regards, yours faithfully. This kind is also something which is questionable. How can it be kind if they have all these ridiculous terms and conditions after they already uproot this person? We have the typical ending of a formal letter. The irony lies in the use of words like hope, free, and consult. There is hope, free, and consult. Okay? Which contradict the other statements in the letter where no, this will not, no pets, no children, no dogs, no walkers, all of those things will be allowed. Okay, you will be evicted. Now they tell them that they hope that they will feel free to consult them. It will be obviously, okay, of the slightest case of difficulty, it will be obviously almost impossible to adhere to these restrictions. So obviously there will be difficulties. And what are they going to do? Do they want the people to move into these flats? It almost seems like they do not. So they have created this whole list of ridiculous terms and conditions for the people to have to comply to. Right. This letter is to say that you have to move, you have no rights, you have no foot to stand on, you cannot come and consult us or complain about it. You just have to do what this letter says. Okay. And here are your questions on this letter is to say, and I will send them through to your RCL member as well. Oh, I'm battling here with the light. But I will take nice, decent photos and hopefully you will be able to see it then as well. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I will also include a copy of the poem if you would like to copy it and maybe paste it in your book to take down your notes around it. It's 2 pages. It's quite a lengthy poem. So have fun. Enjoy doing this poem. It seems to be just another week or 2 and then we will be seeing each other, hopefully. So keep safe, look after yourselves and try and keep up with your work. Thank you very much. Goodbye.